Garmin had just introduced the Forerunner 570 and 970 when yet another watch is hitting the market. The Garmin Venu X1, a watch that no one really expected at this point in time and especially not in this form. The Venu and Vivo Active watches typically belong to the manufacturer's lifestyle segment and are mainly intended for sports watch beginners. But now the Venu X1 can do almost everything that the Forerunner 970 or even a Fenix 8 can do, and in some respects it's even the best Garmin watch of all time. As always, I've tested the watch to the absolute limits. I wore it during all my cycling, swimming, running and gym sessions. I really put the watch through its paces and just wore it 24/7, and in this video I'll share all my experiences with the watch with you, including all the pros and cons so that you know whether it's a good choice for you. So let's get started, have fun. What immediately stands out is the rectangular case instead of Garmin's usual round design. The very first version of the Vivo Active, which essentially led to the Venu series, had a square shape. In 2020 there was already a square Venu SQ and in 2022 the Venu SQ2, but since then no watch with this case design had been released. The case measures 41 x 46 mm. Most impressively, it's only 7.9 mm thick, making it Garmin's thinnest smartwatch ever. For comparison, the medium-sized Fenix 8 is 13.8 mm thick, the Forerunner 970 is 12.9 mm, the Venu 3 is 12 mm, and even the Vivo Active 6 is still significantly thicker at 10.9 mm. With the Venu X1, it honestly feels like you're just wearing a screen on your wrist. It is incredible how much technology is packed into such a slim design. The watch is extremely comfortable to wear and at 34 grams also one of Garmin's lightest watches. Even with the strap, the total weight just comes to 40 grams because what's really nice is that Garmin includes a nylon strap with the Venu X1 instead of the usual silicone strap. Nylon straps are my absolute favorites because they are super lightweight, very comfortable to wear and easily adjustable. Another highlight is the display, which is Garmin's largest display ever. Previously, the manufacturer's largest screen was 1.4 inches, as seen here on the Forerunner 970 or Tactics 8. Now the one on the Venu X1 measures a whopping 2 inches, making it a huge leap forward. To put this even more into perspective, the larger version of the Fenix 8, or as you can see here, the Tactics 8, has a screen diagonal of 35.56 mm, while the Venu X1 comes in at 51.2 mm. That's an increase of nearly 44%. With a resolution of 448 x 486 pixels, the display also offers Garmin's best resolution to date. So yeah, the display really is one of the biggest highlights of this watch. It is huge, very easy to read and just fun to look at. Garmin has definitely managed to create something both thin and lightweight while also incorporating an extremely large display. And I don't know, I really like the square design because it's something different. It's kind of refreshing because all the recent designs from Garmin, as you can see here, are round. However, keep in mind that the operation works almost exclusively via the touchscreen. There are two buttons on the right side of the case, but most of the interaction happens through touch, unlike the Fenix 8 or Forerunner 970, which offer both methods. The touchscreen here is very responsive and fast, but of course, sweaty hands or gloves make things more difficult. One compromise that always had to be made with the Venu and Vivo Active watches was in the build quality, as they were never the most rugged. But with the Venu X1, Garmin is using sapphire glass for the first time in this lineup to protect the display, and the case back is made of titanium. Also, for the first time in a Venu model, Garmin has included the built-in LED flashlight. This feature originally came from Garmin's outdoor segment, was recently added to the Forerunner 970, and now also makes its way to the Venu X1. I've said it many times before, but I really love this feature. I think once you had a flashlight on one of your sports watches or smartwatches, you really don't want to go without this feature anymore, so I'm very happy to see the flashlight on the Venu X1 now as well. Lastly, we need to talk about the price. The Venu 3 currently costs around $450, while the Venu X1 launches at just under $800. So this watch not only introduces a lot of new features, it's also entering a completely new price tier. Unfortunately, this is a trend we've been seeing more and more with Garmin in recent years. The price of the Forerunner 970, for example, was significantly increased as well. And now with the Venu X1 at $800, it's suddenly one of the most expensive Garmin watches ever. We'll take a closer look at whether this price is justified in the rest of the video. Let's now turn our attention to the new features related to sports, fitness and health. Compared to the Venu 3, we now have widgets like training readiness and training status, which we already know from other Garmin watches. These show you a breakdown of all the factors that determine whether you're ready for your next intense workout, like your acute training load, your sleep, your recovery, and so on. You'll also see what effects your current training is having, including your overall load focus, including the aerobic and anaerobic load, your VO2 max, and your HRV status. Additionally, the watch now provides daily workout suggestions for running and cycling, and you can also use Garmin Coach for both activities to create full training plans. The Garmin Coach is now also available for strength training. However, the Garmin Triathlon Coach remains exclusive to the Forerunner 970 for now. If you want to plan a race directly, you can now do that with the watch as well. Through the app, you can enter all the relevant details and then get a preview on the watch. What's not included, however, are projected race predictions like those on the Forerunner 970, where the watch estimates your finish time if you continue training the way you are. Instead, you only get a current race prediction based on your present performance level. In training mode, the Venu X1 finally supports triathlons, and there are several new training profiles added in general, especially more running profiles like track running, trail running, or ultra running. Road cycling has also been added, along with some motorsport and winter sports profiles. During workouts, the watch can record a wide range of data and statistics. New here are the live stamina metrics, which show your remaining energy reserves during a session. Advanced metrics like ground contact time can also be measured, at least when using compatible accessories. Specifically for runners, the watch now shows your performance condition, lactate threshold, and also the hill score, which tells you how fit you are for hill running. Also newly included is Pace Pro, which helps you develop a speed strategy for races. What's missing for runners, however, are the brand new features from the Forerunner 970, such as running tolerance, including the impact load, and running economy with its calculation of step speed loss. For cyclists, the watch can now determine your FTP value, which is your functional threshold power, when using compatible accessories. This is a key performance indicator in cycling, reflecting the maximum power you can sustain over an extended period. The power guide is also new to the Venu X1. This helps you plan your routes in advance and tailor them to the demands of the terrain. And for mountain bikers, grid and flow metrics are now included as well. There's also good news for swimmers. The watch now offers a range of new swim features like a countdown start, a rest timer, and structured swim workouts. And last but not least, golfers will be happy too, because the Venu X1 comes with 43,000 preloaded golf course maps and numerous golf features. It's also fully compatible with the Garmin Golf app. What's missing from the Venu X1, however, is the ECG feature, which we last saw on the Forerunner 970. It is not available here on the Venu X1. And although the watch offers a morning report with key information for your day ahead, the evening report, which is a summary at the end of the day, is not included. All in all, the Venu X1 brings a massive amount of new sports and fitness features and comes closer and closer to the Forerunner 970 or the Fenix 8. But I don't know, I'm still wondering, is this still a Garmin Venu watch? Let's briefly talk about the smart features as well. I think we don't need an entire new section for this because the Venu 3 was already very smart. But with the Venu X1, of course, you again get a microphone and speaker, you can make phone calls, store music and play it directly from the watch. Most importantly, you can use voice assistants, and now, new compared to the Venu 3, you can also give offline voice commands like starting a workout. However, unlike the Apple Watch Ultra 2, the Venu X1 still has no LTE capability, meaning it can't connect to the internet without a paired smartphone. So far, the only Garmin watch to support this was the Forerunner 945 LTE, and unfortunately no other model has had it since. As we've seen, the Venu X1 offers many new features and a spectacular new display. However, battery life has noticeably worsened compared to the Venu 3. In general, this seems to be a trend from Garmin, packing more and more features into their watches while sacrificing a few days of battery life, something that we also saw from some of their recent releases. If this trend will continue, this would really be pretty sad for me, because I think the battery life is one of the key strengths of all the Garmin watches and one of the key differentiators from classic smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Samsung Galaxy Watch. Battery life has now decreased, partly due to the increased number of features, but mainly because of the thinner casing and brighter display. On paper, the Venu X1 lasts up to 8 days in everyday use, but only up to 2 days with the always-on display enabled. The recently released Vivo Active 6 still offered 11 and 5 days respectively, more than twice as long with always-on mode. When tracking an activity using all GNSS systems, the Venu X1 lasts up to 14 hours, and if you're listening to music at the same time, just up to 7 hours, which is pretty low compared to other Garmin watches as well. And I can confirm these figures based on my personal tests. For me, the watch loses between 6 and 8% per hour during activities, which means it lasts somewhere between 12 and 16 hours, basically exactly as Garmin states. During activities without GPS tracking, such as a gym workout, the watch only loses about 3% per hour, so it can last over 30 hours. And on the treadmill, I experienced a 5% drain per hour, which results in up to 20 hours of battery life. Overall, the watch lasts around 4 days for me without always on enabled, but I also use it very intensively, so I think 6 to 7 days should definitely be possible. As for heart rate measurement, it's no surprise that the Venu X1 uses Garmin's 5th generation Elevate sensor, the same one found in the Venu 3 and other recent Garmin watches like the Forerunner 970 and Fenix 8. I've had generally positive experiences with this sensor so far. However, accuracy not only depends on the sensor itself, but also on how the watch is built, and since this watch is built quite differently from other Garmin watches, I was very curious to see whether this would have an effect on the accuracy of the optical heart rate sensor. While running, the watch is very accurate as expected. Here you can see its readings in blue compared to the chest strap in red, and there were hardly any noticeable differences. The average heart rate also differs by only 0.16 beats per minute from the chest strap, which is negligible. During the second run, in this case on the treadmill, the watch was slightly less accurate and a bit delayed compared to the chest strap. The average heart rate differed by 3 beats per minute, but that's really nitpicking, still perfectly usable result. The same basically applies to cycling. There are occasional inaccuracies here, especially here in the middle section, but overall it's still a very good measurement. For example, the average heart rate here matches the chest strap almost exactly down to the second decimal point. During strength training, as usual, there are more inaccuracies. The watch doesn't quite keep up with some heart rate spikes, as we can also see during the second session. So the watch wasn't that accurate here, but to be honest, still a bit more accurate than most other Garmin watches in my tests. Lastly, let's talk about GPS and navigation. In terms of GPS, there is still a gap between the Venu X1 and Garmin's other premium watches, because the Venu X1 doesn't have multiband GPS. Compared to the Venu 3, it does include QZSS and Beidou, but again, no multiband. But don't worry, in my experience, Garmin is the manufacturer that offers the most accurate GPS even without multiband, as we can also see here based on my tests. The watch records my route very precisely, both during the city run and, for example, during this longer bike ride through the countryside. In my classic forest test, where I run the exact same narrow forest trail out and back, the watch also performs very, very well. Watches with multiband may be slightly more accurate here, but you'd have to watch really closely to see a difference at all, and watches from other manufacturers usually can't keep up with this result, even with multiband. So you really don't need to worry much about the lack of multiband on the Venu X1. By the way, the watch's distance measurement on the treadmill also aligns very well with the treadmill's values, even though GPS doesn't play a role here. A completely new addition is the topographic maps, which haven't been part of the Vivo Active or Venu lineup at all until now. But as mentioned, this is now very much a premium watch and therefore offers all Garmin navigation features as well. These include full-color topographic maps with details like street names, points of interest and so on, now even easier to read thanks to the large display. It also includes features like trackback, round-trip routing, next fork navigation and basically everything we know from the Fenix 8. The maps are routable, meaning you can create a new route directly on the watch, and it works like a small navigation system. For better planning in the mountains, the Climb Pro feature is also available. One thing that's missing here is pre-installed ski maps, but aside from that, all navigation features are included. And since you can now load maps onto the watch, the Venu X1 offers 32 GB of storage, up from 8 GB on the Venu 3. Alright, so what can we conclude on the new Garmin Venu X1? As I said in the beginning already, this watch came as something of a surprise, and to be honest, I still don't fully understand it. Compared to previous Venu or Vivo Active models, it brings an incredible number of new features. It's more rugged, has a built-in LED flashlight, loads of new sports and fitness features, and now includes topographic maps and extensive navigation options. It also boasts Garmin's biggest and best display to date. But at the same time, I find myself wondering, where are the lines now between the Venu, Forerunner and Fenix watches? Because up until something like a year ago, this was fairly clear. The Fenix watches were the absolute top-tier premium outdoor sports watches with premium prices. Then we had the Forerunner watches, which were priced in the mid-range. These were specifically aimed at runners and endurance athletes. And the Venu, or also Vivo Active watches, were more from the lifestyle segment. They were like a mix of sports watches and smart watches, and they were more affordable as well. These boundaries are now increasingly blurred. The Forerunner 970 already came with a significantly higher price tag, and now the Venu X1's price has also been bumped up. But in terms of features, the Venu X1, the Forerunner 970 and Fenix 8 are no longer all that different. They basically all offer almost everything. The only real things missing from the Venu X1 compared to those watches are ECG functionality, multiband GPS, dive features and the brand new running metrics like running tolerance and running economy. Also, as discussed, Garmin has sacrificed a significant chunk of battery life in exchange for all these new features and the undoubtedly impressive display. All in all, the Venu X1 is once again a very good and exciting watch, but it certainly doesn't make Garmin's lineup any clearer. Maybe the best way to describe it is as a more sports-focused version of the Apple Watch Ultra 2, because you can't shake the feeling that this is exactly the watch that Garmin wants to compete with here. But like I said, I'm still not entirely sure what to make of this watch. So let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the Garmin Venu X1, whether you like it or dislike it. If you liked this video, if you found it helpful or interesting, you could really support me by giving this video a quick thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any future reviews or comparison videos on my channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.